Hello, everyone. I'm Emma, and 10 years ago, my parents threw me out with nothing but 2 bags and a broken heart.
And today, I'm going to share the most painful chapter of my life, a chapter filled with heartbreak, betrayal, loneliness, and a truth that took me 10 years to uncover. But before we begin, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Let me know your country and city. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe because on this channel, pain turns into power. If you've ever lived through a story that changed your life, feel free to share it. One day, your story might inspire someone else who desperately needs hope. Now, let me take you back 10 years, back to the night that changed everything. I never imagined that my own parents would throw me out of their house at 18 years old. And I certainly never imagined that 10 years later, those same parents would be standing on my doorstep asking for help. But to understand how that happened, you need to know the secret they spent years hiding from me. My name is Emma. My mother was American. My father was British. Growing up, people always told me how lucky I was. They said I had the best of both worlds. But behind closed doors, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. I wasn't abused. I wasn't neglected in an obvious way. It was something harder to explain. I was tolerated, not cherished, not celebrated, just tolerated. My younger brother was the center of everything. His dreams mattered. His opinions mattered. His mistakes were forgiven. Mine weren't. Whenever something went wrong, somehow I was blamed. At first, I convinced myself I was imagining it. But as the years passed, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Still, I loved my parents. I wanted their approval. I wanted them to be proud of me. I spent years trying to earn love that should have been given freely. Then came the night that destroyed everything. I had just turned 18. College applications were approaching. I was excited about the future. That evening, during dinner, I asked a simple question. A question that seemed harmless. I asked about a college fund my grandmother had once mentioned. The room instantly went silent. My father stopped eating. My mother's face turned pale. And my brother suddenly looked down at his plate. I didn't understand why. Not yet. But looking back, that was the moment everything began to unravel. The conversation quickly turned into an argument. The argument turned into shouting. And before I even understood what was happening, I found myself being accused of things I had never done. Being called selfish, ungrateful, disrespectful. I stood there crying, trying to defend myself, trying to understand what was happening. But nobody was listening. Then my father pointed toward the door. "If you're so unhappy here, leave." I waited for my mother to stop him. She didn't. I waited for someone to defend me. Nobody did. Within an hour, I was standing outside with 2 bags of clothes. The front door slammed shut behind me, and just like that, I was alone. That night, I slept on a friend's couch. I cried until sunrise, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I couldn't understand how my own family could abandon me so easily. The next few years were brutal. While my friends attended college, I worked. Coffee shops, retail stores, night shifts, weekend jobs, anything that paid enough to survive. There were nights when I skipped meals, months when I couldn't afford basic necessities. Birthdays passed without phone calls. Holidays came and went in silence. The loneliness was unbearable. I smiled in public, but cried alone at night. Nobody saw those tears. Nobody knew how broken I felt. And yet, something inside me refused to quit. One evening, after another exhausting shift, I sat alone in my tiny apartment. The electricity had almost been shut off. My bank account was nearly empty. I stared at my reflection and realized something. Nobody was coming to save me. Not my parents, not my family. Nobody. That night I made a promise to myself. If I was going to survive, I would build my own future. I started studying after work. Marketing, business, finance, anything I could learn for free. Every day I worked. Every night I studied. While others slept, I learned. While others partied, I planned. Years passed. Slowly, my life began to change. I earned promotions, built skills, created opportunities. Eventually, I landed a management position. Then another. For the first time in my life, I felt proud of myself. But the biggest twist was still waiting. When I was 28, I received a message from my Aunt Carol, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. The message simply said, "We need to talk about what happened when you were 18. My stomach dropped. A few days later, we met, and what she told me changed everything. Years before she died, my grandmother had created a college fund for me, a substantial amount of money, enough to completely change my future, enough to pay for college, enough to give me opportunities, but I never received it. At first, I thought there had been a mistake. Then Aunt Carol showed me documents, bank statements, records, proof. The money had been withdrawn by my parents. The room felt like it was spinning. I couldn't breathe. For 10 years, I believed I had been kicked out because of an argument. Now I realize the truth. The argument happened because I accidentally asked questions about money they had taken. Instead of telling the truth, they made me the problem. They made me the villain. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had ever experienced. But strangely, it also set me free. For the first time, I stopped blaming myself. I finally understood. Their choices were never my fault. And once I accepted that, everything changed. My confidence grew. My business expanded. By 35, I owned a successful consulting company. I had employees, financial security, a beautiful home, a life I had built entirely on my own. Then one cold autumn evening, someone knocked on my door. 3 slow knocks. I opened it and froze. Standing there were my parents. 10 years older, 10 years more fragile. Neither of them looked like the powerful people I remembered. My mother's eyes filled with tears. My father couldn't even meet my gaze. Something was wrong. And within minutes I learned why. They were drowning in debt. Medical expenses had destroyed their finances. Their savings were gone. Their house was gone. And they needed help. The daughter they abandoned had become their last hope. For years I had imagined this moment. I thought I would feel anger. I thought I would feel satisfaction. But I didn't. I felt peace. Because by then, I had already healed. My parents sat silently, waiting for my answer. Certain I would reject them. Certain I would make them suffer the way they made me suffer. Instead, I invited them inside. The look on their faces was unforgettable. They couldn't believe it. Neither could I. But I wasn't helping them because they deserved it. I was helping them because I refused to let bitterness control my life. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It doesn't excuse betrayal. It doesn't magically rebuild trust. But sometimes forgiveness frees the person carrying the pain. And that's exactly what it did for me. Over time, difficult conversations happened. Truths were admitted. Regrets were spoken. Apologies were made. Not every wound healed completely. Some scars never disappear. But for the first time, we face the truth. And sometimes that's where healing begins. If this story touched your heart, tell me something. Have you ever been underestimated by someone you trusted? Let us know in the comments. And if you're enjoying these stories, subscribe to Broken Then Powerful for more stories like this. Remember, sometimes the people who break your heart accidentally reveal your true strength. And those who underestimate you often become witnesses to your success.